of all, congratulations, General Bakshi. I've always admired you as one of our modern day rishis. 46th book, it's incredible. And the kind of rigor, scholarship, research that goes into it, you just saw a glimpse of it in the details. I can't wait to sink my teeth into this meaty offering. And such are his books, earlier books as well. Let me get down straight to some of the things that he's touched, which are really very evocative. Kautilya is one of them. Kautilya has said that there are 4 sources of threat to any country. Of course, the external threat, the internal threat, internally sponsored external threat, and externally sponsored internal threat. That is the level of sophistication he deployed to analyze how we need to defend ourselves. And 3 of these 4 that he mentioned relate to your internal situation. And that's where I come to the word that I've been flogging for years, demography. Due to my interest and my curiosity, I have been part of different think tanks, been studying documents and strategies and proposals on our security. There are several issues discussed, targeted, proposed: technology, army, formations, armaments, infrastructure, budgets, and therefore economy. I seldom come across a paper that highlights demography as an important aspect of our security. As if shy and apologetic about addressing this very crucial factor as one of the cornerstones of guaranteeing our security. And this is where I sometimes feel we overlook. Our borders today are wonderfully managed. We have a great army. We've fought wars and we've excelled. We don't lack valor. And now, thankfully, we don't lack budgets to arm ourselves with the latest technology, great equipment. We train our people. But what do? And for the perhaps first time, we publicly acknowledged that there was a half a front within, besides the 2 fronts outside. We still didn't define that half a front. We left it a little vague. But we've started, and thankfully so. How do we go about this half a front? Where do we find a policy reflected in this issue? Have we ever seen a document where national interest is put paramount in stabilizing our demography, especially in sensitive geographies? Do we see this as a national concern? Do we see it as part of our discourse, our media discourse, our professional discourse? I'm afraid not. And this harks back to our traditional native wisdom on national security. I have an interesting example to share with you to underline what I'm saying. And it's not just demography. We need to see what kind of population mix exists in our sensitive geographies. I come from a state where the valley is now bereft of the demographic balance it had, the foothold we had 35 years ago. Can we ever think of holding a territory without paying too huge a price, without a population that commits itself to nationhood and patriotism without preconditions? And when we have such a situation, what kind of price do we pay? In Kashmir, we have lost more soldiers battling insurgency than we've lost in all the wars put together post-independence. This is what happens when demography goes adverse. And besides demography, demography is something which is very tangible, psychography. Even with so-called favorable demography, if you don't have the right values, the right attitudes and the right perceptions, we are vulnerable. Our campuses, our young population, our social media, and you see all kinds of perceptions and all kinds of arguments coming up. Because we've not paid attention to building up the right psychographic profile, even in the demographic segment which is supposed to be favorable. And this is what offers opportunities to people who can sponsor threats from within. And that's a huge vulnerability. About demographic issue, I would like to share an interesting example. In 2001 census, religious demography came up as a word of caution. There was a think tank, Center for Policy Studies, who analyzed the religious demography data thrown up by 2001 census and published a book. As soon as the book hit the public space and these alarms began to sound, the first reaction of the government was pull down the site, census site, no data available. The second, when the site was put back, no religious demography data available in that. And third, sent the census commissioner and the registrar general packing. The guy, he wasn't to be blamed. He did his job. But such was the panic reaction. Such was the apology. You didn't want. The first reaction is denial. And then to water it down and say, no, not so much. No cause to panic. This is what we are doing with writings on the wall. And today it's not just Kashmir. You see, Kashmir has become a metaphor for this kind of challenge that exists everywhere else. And we need to do something about it. We have the native wisdom. We have the templates. We need the political will and the candor to call the trouble by its real name. It is not terrorism. Sometimes normalizes, because terrorism is all over the world for all kinds of reasons. There is one in Chhattisgarh also. If it is jihad, it needs to be called jihad. They themselves call themselves jihadis. In fact, because we keep saying that religion has nothing to do with terrorism, they've caught up. They've clued on now. Lashkar and Jaish and Hizbul now call themselves the resistance front. It sounds very modern, it sounds very kosher, and it sounds very healthy. So this is how they are shaping up, and we need to, in our discourse, in our narrative again, an extremely important part of dealing with this. I think I've exhausted most of my time allotted to me. Thank you very much, first of all, giving me this opportunity to share space with you and to share space with our luminary, Shri Ajit Dovalji. Thank you very much for a wonderful book after so many books, and hope to see some more along the way. And I hope all of you will buy a copy on your way out. Thank you so much.